I know this is, we've talked really into the detail around some of these specific metrics, but I want to get into really the cycles and what this looks like, because when you build a forecast, one, it's going to be very hard not to focus just on revenue and how big is that, what's the sale, what's the profitability, when really what I hear and what we're big preachers of is that 13-week cycle. Instead of thinking of this business on a month to month basis, looking into those 4 blocks of 13 weeks and taking more of a cash flow perspective. Profit's great, revenue's great, gross margins were great, but you need to take the forecast as opposed to the budget from truly a cash flow perspective. Can you help describe really why that is, why cash flow forecasting and that focus is so important when building a forecast, as opposed to spending the time focusing really on revenue, profitability, and all the fun, cool financial metrics?
Well, the number one thing when we're talking about, forecasting for aggressive growth is how are you going to fund that growth? Can you afford to do it internally or not, or do you need some outside funding in order to have it injected in the business to fund that growth? So when we talk about being able to grow aggressively and thinking about cash flow, it's how quick is that cash conversion cycle? Some businesses are a lot faster than others. If you're giving 30-day terms, 45, even 60-day terms, and you might be growing at a pace where you need additional financing, either through a line of credit for some of that short-term financing or some additional investment from your current investors in order to fund that growth. So if you're not trying to forecast cash flow, you could be easily caught in a bind where you might be being really successful, but you're just growing so quickly that you might be cash strapped for a certain period of time. So that's where forecasting, having that focus on cash flow, that's going to be your number one metric that you always need to be in top of mind.
I want to get into really detailed, even you can riff here. We don't, the professionalism, all that. What are the things, when we look at you're building a forecast, where are you keying as Matt Kerrigan for your MSP clients, saying, here's where you need to really be focusing for aggressive growth. Here's what matters. Here's the numbers you should key on, because you build a forecast. There's tons of information. There's lots of revenue lines and expenses in here. Where do you direct them to say, hey, here's the highest key, top 3 or 4 areas you should be focusing on this forecast on a monthly basis to lead your decision making?
Well, the number one tends to be your labor utilization in terms of what capacity that you have. It's all well and good to have a really a strong growth plan, 10, 20% revenue growth. But if you don't have the resources to support that growth, it's not worth the paper that's written on.